The others, also known as White Walkers, Cold Gods, White Shadows, and Cold Shadows, are a race of humanoid creatures that exist in the far north beyond the wall. Supposedly, according to the Maesters, no one has seen a White Walker for thousands of years. However, with that being said, I would take what the Maesters say with a grain of salt, seeing as how they are partially responsible for the death of dragons in Westeros. But that in itself is a whole nother can of worms. So let's see. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. So, since Maesters are personally in charge of educating highborn children, many grow up woefully misinformed, believing that the White Walkers are, in fact, extinct. The books tell us that the others are tall and gaunt, with flesh pale as milk. The others have cold blue eyes that have been described as burning like ice, or being as bright as blue stars. George R.R. Martin describes the others as strange, beautiful, the she made of ice. A different sort of life, inhuman, elegant, dangerous. The others themselves are capable of resurrecting corpses through necromancy. The corpses the others raise are called whites. And unlike the others, whites are slow and clumsy. Whites themselves have an odd, cold scent that distresses any animal in the vicinity of the area. Whites can remain in a state of stasis, lying in wait to attack. The others use their necromancy to control many different animals, and one of which are the dead horses that they use as their steeds. Now, here is the real question. Are the others driven by instinct or intelligence? Are they capable of feeling human emotions like love, grief, joy, anxiety, etc.? There's a strong push in the story to see the others as a predatory and innately evil race. Every story we hear about them reiterates this detail over and over again. According to Old Nan, the others hate every creature with hot blood in its veins. Stannis Baratheon calls them demons made of ice and snow and cold. And Melisandre, a red priestess, believes that the others are the cold children of the great other, allegedly an evil god of darkness, cold, and death, who wages eternal war against her god, R'hllor. And the free folk, they believe the others and their whites can smell life, or rather, its warmth. All these examples portray the others as being monsters motivated only by hatred and desire to inflict widespread death. Most of the evidence in the series supports this point of view as well. Is there any evidence that exists for the alternative? Allow me, if you will, to play devil's advocate. One of the first examples that comes to mind is the encounter with Royce. In the duel with Royce, they are seen talking to each other, and they appear to be laughing. This implies that they are capable of individual thought, and they are human enough to have a sense of humor. I mean, sure, it's a dark sense of humor, but it's no darker than that of the brave companions or of the mountain's men. Many have very adamantly argued that their battle with Royce is simply a sadistic teasing, that Royce had no chance to defeat them. However, I disagree. The battle is relatively fair, one-on-one duel, well, until Royce's sword is shattered. Later in the series, we find out that the others are vulnerable to dragon glass and dragon steel. If Royce had been properly equipped, he would have had a chance at victory, instead of the quick demise that followed. So if that's the case, the others' laughter could be taken as them realizing the duel had always been so one-sided. Now, if we assume the others didn't know Royce was so ill-equipped to fight, then what we are actually seeing is an other intentionally putting their own life on the line to give their opponent a fair chance at victory. Another example, and quite literally the elephant in the room that nobody is talking about, is their interactions with Craster. Craster not only has a deal with the others, but is completely unafraid of the impending long winter. According to his wives, Craster leaves his sons for the others, whom he calls the gods, come the white cold, and when he does not have any sons to give them, he leaves them sheep. Craster's wives believe that Craster's sons become others as well. Craster calls himself a godly man, and as such, believes he does not have to fear any attacks from the others or their whites. Also, Martin himself has said that while Craster is the only person we see in the series with this kind of arrangement, that he is, in fact, not alone. So for those who don't know what this means, this strongly implies that a middle ground can be reached with the others, and that they do, indeed, communicate with humans, and that they are not mindless killers bent on ruthlessly exterminating all warm-bodied life. And last, but not least, is the tale of the Night King, which shows that others, like humans, are also very capable of falling in love. The legend says the Night King lived during the Age of Heroes, not long after the wall was complete. While serving as the 13th Lord and Commander of the Night's Watch, he fell in love with a woman he saw from the top of the wall. This woman had skin white as the moon, eyes blue like stars, and her skin was as cold as ice. The Night King was fearless, after all, so he chased her. When he finally caught her, he fell in love with her, and when he gave his seed to her, he gave his soul to her as well. The Night King brought this woman back to the Night Fort and declared her a queen and himself her king. They say that with strange sorcery, he bound the Night's Watch brothers to his will and ruled the Night Fort as his own castle for 13 years, with his corpse queen by his side. Here we are explicitly told that the others have genders. We learn that they can forge deep and lasting relationships with humans. There are some rumors attached to the story that say, during the dark years of his reign, horrific atrocities were committed, of which tales are still told in the North. This actually makes me wonder who exactly was saying it. That sounds blatantly biased, one-sided, and extremely anti-other. And they, whoever they are, go on to say that later it was discovered that he had been sacrificing to the others, which led to all records of him being destroyed, and his very name was forbidden and forgotten. I mean, this sounds like slander to me. What if all he was doing was living his life with his wife and having biracial children with the woman he loved? Old Nan's version of the tale would always end the story saying that some people believed the Night's King was a Bolton, a Magnar of Skagus, an Umber, a Flint, a Nori, or a Woodfoot, but none of those were true, that the Night King was a Stark of Winterfell and a brother to Brandon the Breaker who brought him down. It's been rumored that the Night King performs human sacrifices, which is absolutely deplorable. However, not to call the kettle black or anything, but from what I've seen, so do the children, so do the first men, so do the Valyrians, and the House of Black and White, the Religion of R'hllor, and many, many others. Which, don't get me wrong, I am not condoning this behavior by anyone in the story. In fact, I'm bringing to light the complete and utter lack of what we consider morally correct behavior throughout the entire series. Human sacrifice should not be an acceptable practice or part of religious ceremonies, period. But here we are, in a world that simply accepts these atrocities. But anyways, I digress. That's a topic for another time. So, in my opinion, all of these examples prove the others are thinking, feeling beings with a sense of ethics who are at least capable of entering into dialogues and intimate relations with humans. They say that the others act without a clear motive, but maybe clues for their motivations have already been given to us. It is said that the others come out when it's cold, or that they bring the cold with them. They don't like fire and they don't like warmth. They come during the long night, when the world is wrapped in endless winter. During the long summer, they stay in the frozen north, aka lands of always winter. This is absolutely because the others would die if they ventured into warmer climates. Now, during the long summer, the warm-blooded races have dominion over the world, while the others are confined to the north. During the long winter, the opposite is true. The others can roam the world as if it belonged to them, while the warm races must stay confined to the few remaining habitats that meet climate requirements for their species to survive. And no, warm-blooded races are not evil for thinking that the others aren't real and living their best lives when the weather suits their species, since the others can't leave the snowy areas anyways. And neither would I consider the others of being evil for doing the same thing to the warm-blooded races when the long winter arrives and they can finally go as far south as the snow will let them. Thus, the others aren't evil. They are simply incompatible with conditions necessary for human civilization and most of what we would think of as life to exist. They have been trapped up north for thousands of years, and they will do what they must to achieve what they believe is their rightful place in the sun, or lack thereof. To them, it would seem fair, and the atrocities would be morally justified.